Now, look what happens. Look what happens from 1940 to 1950. Boom! This is the rise of the United States. All right. So the United States becomes the preeminent economic power. That shifts the center of gravity toward the United States, toward the West. If you look at the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even to 2000, it's still very much tilted toward North America and the West. It's also very far north, largely because of not much economic activity, say, in Africa, below the equator. But take a look at what happens between 2000 and 2010. A remarkable move back east. The economic center of gravity in the last 10 years has moved as far as it did after World War II. Indeed, as far as it moved from after World War I and World War II. And it's going to continue to move further south and further east as time goes on. So this is, just think of just a remarkable finding showing how our world has changed over the last 10 or 12 years. Let's go to the next one. Even though it's New Year's and a reverse time, I do want to talk about death. So let's talk about U.S. causes of death. This is another very remarkable chart. In 1900, look at the main causes of death in the United States. Pneumonia, tuberculosis, gastrointestinal infection. Essentially, a century later, those causes of death have disappeared. People aren't in the United States. People are not dying. Some people are dying of those things, unfortunately, but not anywhere close to the numbers. So there are two interesting things here, or there are a number of interesting things. One interesting thing about this chart is that the number of deaths per 100,000 people has declined pretty much by half. That's a great thing, a remarkable thing. And then if you look at what people are dying from, those sorts of things have, so many of the things that people were dying from have gone away. Look at that bottom part of that chart from 1900. Pneumonia, tuberculosis, GI infection, essentially not causing very many, almost no causes of death today. What is causing death are heart disease and cancer. But if you look at some of the remarkable work being done right now, particularly in cancer, and particularly in the work that's saying that cancer is the disease of a gene rather than the disease of an organ, one can project out and say, whoa, imagine what happens if heart disease and cancer become as minimal causes of death in a couple of decades as these other causes of death became after 1900. What you have is you have a lot more people in the United States living and a lot more things that used to be killers not being killers anymore. So I really believe that certain kinds of trends in biology are about to really, whether it's stem cells or synthetic biology, are about to make a kind of a step change in advancing. So this is some very, very heartening news if we continue in this trajectory. So those are my two charts of the year, exciting as they are. Let me talk about some trends I'm watching. There are 5 in particular, covering a range of areas we're all interested in: technology, business, society, and so forth. Let's start here with technology trend. All right, folks, here we go. I have been talking about this for the last 6 months. Now that I've seen the data, I saw a very interesting presentation by some people at Google about mobile. Here's the key point, ladies and gentlemen. Mobile is an even bigger deal than we realize. Let me say that again. Mobile is an even bigger deal than we realize. I cannot underscore how important mobile is going to become, how significant this rise of literally several billion people with little mini computers in their pocket is going to be. I don't think we've seen anything like this. This reminds me a little bit of, say, 1994 or so, when the internet and the web were about to go big. And there was some sense like, oh, yeah, it's going to be important, yeah. But we had no idea how transformative it was going to be. Let me give you some numbers to verify that. They're just astonishing. So let's look at this. This is a chart from Mashable showing that this year, finally, people are now spending more time, Americans, people are now spending more time on their mobile devices than watching television. And for better or worse, mostly for worse, Americans still spend a lot of time watching TV. TV is not going away. TV remains a very powerful force. And yet, for the first time ever, people are doing something more than watching TV. They're spending it on their mobile devices. That's a big change. Let me show you another big change. Has to go with search, okay? Now, Google is Internet standards. Let's look at this. This is a story from CNET. Desktop searches declined in September for the first time ever. That is, there were fewer searches on desktop computers in September of 12 than there were in September of 11. Let me say that again. There were fewer desktop searches, meaning people searching Bing or Google or Yahoo search or whatever from their laptops or their desktop computers. There were fewer in September of 2012 than there were in September of 2011. Is that because people aren't searching anymore? Au contraire, if you'll pardon my French here for a moment. It's because they're doing their searches on mobile devices. Right now, there are about a third of all searches that take place are on mobile devices, phones or tablets. Google's projecting that that's going to cross over to half in a couple of years. In other countries, India, for instance, more searches are done on mobile devices than on desktop computers. Mobile, mobile, mobile. One more thing, and I'm going to give you the source for this next one in a moment because I think it's worth looking at. This is a little, take a look at this chart here. This is from Mary Meeker, the internet analyst who is now at Kleiner Perkins, the big venture capital firm. This is a chart from her research. I'm going to give you the way to get the whole thing. In 2010, these are shipments. In 2010, if you look at where that arrow is pointing, in 2010, the number of desktops and notebook PCs that shipped was greater than the number of smartphones and tablets that shipped. And that's the last time that happened. Take a look at that. 2011, more smartphones and tablets shipped than desktop PCs and notebook PCs. In fact, more smartphones shipped than desktop PCs and notebook PCs combined. Look at the estimate for the year that just ended. Way more smartphone shipping than desktop PCs or notebooks. Add tablets on top of that, it's not even close. Go to the estimates for next year. You're talking more than double the number of smartphone shipping versus the number of desktop PCs and notebook PCs. Add in tablets, it's even bigger. Go to 2014, a ginormous green, yellow-topped bar. Go to 2015, it's not even close anymore. It's a stomping. Look at that. This is a big deal. That is, we are moving to a world built much more around these mobile devices than we are around the desktop PCs that people in my age thought was like the greatest thing that ever happened to humanity when they first came out. Now they're becoming less prominent. These are shipments. Let's take a look at use or installed base. These are how much stuff there is out there. This year, she estimates, for the first time ever, there are going to be more smartphones and tablets in existence than notebook PCs and desktop PCs. Mobile. Big deal, folks. Big, big deal. 2014, there'll be more smartphones than there will be desktop PCs and notebook PCs combined. So that's the big tech trend to watch. I don't think we have seen anything yet. Wrote a little bit about this in To Sell Is Human, but I don't think we've really wrapped our minds around this. If you want Mary Meeker's report, she has like a 100-slide deck. Just Google this term, Mary Meeker Internet Trends Year-End Update, and you'll get it. She's provided it for free. It's fantastic. So take a look at that. Let's go to the next one. Geopolitics! Everybody's favorite topic. Here's the trend. Water is becoming the new oil. Water is becoming the new oil. Something remarkable happened this year. Take a look at this New York Times article. The United States is on the brink of becoming the world's top oil producer. The United States is on the brink of becoming a net producer of oil. That is, will produce more than we will consume. This is a big deal. It changes so much of geopolitics because so much of our foreign policy was geared toward protecting oil, getting oil, propping up regimes that gave us oil even though those regimes were often inconsistent with American values. I think that's going to change. And we're not going to be fighting over water because of global climate change, because of some other important trends, because of changes in agriculture around the world. Water is, I think, what we're going to be fighting about politically. Maybe this year will be the start of all of that. If you're interested in this topic of water, and you should be, take a look at this book by Charles Fishman. Full disclosure, Fishman is a friend of mine, but I would still recommend this book if you weren't. The Big Thirst. It's your best introduction to go to the next one, business. This is kind of a micro trend, with all due respect to Mark Penn. This is a micro trend. One of the things that I'm seeing out there is that we tend to divide the world into bits and atoms, or at least some of us do. That is, certain kinds of commerce is about stuff, certain kinds of commerce is about digits, about bits and electronic information. But as Amazon and others have shown, those two worlds go together really well. And one of the things that I'm seeing out there, which I think is going to go mainstream, are subscriptions to stuff. It's relatively small right now, but it seems like every day there's a new business on this front. So I just happened to join a couple days ago Dollar Shave Club, where you pay a few bucks every month and it'll send you razors. Because what happens to me is that I go, I shave, I wear out my razor, oh crap, I don't have any blades, so then I have to go out and find it, and then I end up using an old razor, and that's my life. Dollar Shave Club will send you razors. You get a subscription to razors, which is pretty awesome. The people they're targeting now tend to be people who are either extraordinarily lazy or don't have much time, i.e. men. And so there's also this place here, which is pretty hilarious, Man Packs, where they send you manly goods on a schedule. That's underwear, socks, razors, condoms, and more, although you have to wonder, what else do you need besides those items? So that is manly goods, subscriptions for men. You see it also with some men's clothing as well. Who else is pressed for time? How about moms? Stork Stack, where you get all kinds of baby products delivered to you every month. You sign up online, the delivery person brings it to your door. Here's a combination of subscriptions and the move to locavore-ism. Here is baby food that you can sign up for that's delivered to your door, farm to baby. You see it in a whole range of things, and this is what I think is interesting, is it's crossing categories in a really spectacular way. Dog owners, pet owners, huge number of pet owners in this country. All right, pet owners are really, pet owners are busy. It's like having another kid. Here is BarkBox, where you can get monthly goodies for your dog. So it's everybody. It's pet owners. It's drinkers. Grape Crate. This is a new venture here in Washington, D.C. that, of course, Pink House has signed up for, where what they'll do is they'll bring you a crate of wine every month or so. And what they'll do is, instead of having to figure out what wines are good and what wines are not, what wines are a good deal, they'll bring you good wines at a good deal and bring it straight to your home. It's even an opportunity for those of you out there who are foot fetishists. Sock subscription. So subscriptions are going mainstream, folks. I think there's some really cool opportunities in that. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this is a good one. I mean, all of the others were good too, but this is good. All right, so society. Okay, the stages will continue to collapse. Keep an eye on this, folks. Again, I'm not sure exactly what to make of all of this, but there's something big going on here. You see this in, there's a big New York Times story, what is it about 20-something? So here you have these people who are, say, 22, 23 years old, but they're not acting that much like 22 or 23-year-olds 25 years ago or 50 years ago. There's a new category, a new stage of life that people are calling, started in 2000, started calling emerging adulthood. It's a stage that never existed before, emerging adulthood. These are people in their early 20s who haven't quite figured it out yet. Now, 50 years ago, we used to call people in their early 20s here in the United States, people in their early 20s we used to call parents. We used to call soldiers. We used to call people who are working for a living. But now we call them emerging adults. Now, it's easy to make fun of that, but what it shows you is that these very predictable stages of development that we think are somehow a natural force actually are affected by cultural trends. And the more we figure this out, what are these new stages, the more we can actually locate ourselves within those stages, help out our kids, and actually begin in consumer marketing, certainly, to segment the workforce, to segment the population differently. Same thing with the workforce as well. And so this idea of childhood, adulthood, old age are not fixed categories. They're always affected by culture. You see this, I'll give you a couple of examples of this. You see this in a midlife crisis.